Can you believe that in some places in the world, just because you are black, you can be refused a taxi, looked at like a stranger from another planet, or even fear for your own safety? Travel is supposed to be a journey of freedom and discovery, but for many black travelers, sometimes it turns into a test of prejudice and discrimination. In today's video, we will expose 5 countries considered beautiful, wealthy, and desirable, but that hide invisible barriers that mean black people are never fully welcomed. This is not a list to make you afraid, but a warning for you to prepare, to be aware, and to protect yourself before you pack your bag and hit the road. Trust me, you'll want to watch until the end, because one destination that seems like a paradise in the eyes of many may turn into a nightmare if you walk in without knowing. Dream it. Pack it. Go. To 5. Russia. The land of ice, but a cold heart toward black people. When Russia is mentioned, many people immediately think of Red Square covered in snow, the lavishly gilded Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, or Lake Baikal stretching endlessly blue like a mirror of the sky. Russia is also the homeland of great figures such as Tolstoy, Tchaikovsky, and Dostoevsky, where music, literature, and art blend with majestic nature to create an irresistible allure. On the economic map, Russia is an energy superpower, leading the world in natural gas reserves and exports, with nominal GDP ranked among the top 11 globally. The cost of living in Russia is also quite affordable. A single person spends about $600 per month, depending on the city, while a family of 4 spends around $2,500, significantly cheaper than many Western capitals. All these things make Russia still a dream in the eyes of many who love travel and academia. But for the black community, that dazzling picture is covered by a layer of cold ice. The most infamous case was the tragedy of François Ngelasili, a Gabonese PhD student who was stabbed to death in Yekaterinburg in August 2023. The attacker was later sentenced to 8 years in prison, while 2 police officers who witnessed the incident but failed to intervene were dismissed. The case was widely reported in international media, serving as a stark reminder that in Russia, the danger is not just hostile stares, but can escalate into deadly violence. Before that, a student from Congo had been refused a taxi ride solely because of his skin color, and countless African travelers shared their experiences of being denied housing, repeatedly stopped for ID checks, or subjected to open slurs on the street. According to statistics from the Sova Center, in just the first 7 months of 2025, there were 183 hate-motivated attacks, at least 5 resulting in death, 3 of which directly targeted black individuals. These numbers show this is no longer about isolated incidents, but a systemic social problem. While in Moscow and St. Petersburg, the more culturally diverse centers, black people may find some sense of safety. In second-tier cities with fewer foreigners, the risks of being scrutinized, shunned, or even assaulted are significantly higher. The paradox is that Russians still take pride in their rich culture and traditional hospitality. A visitor can easily sit in a vintage cafe by the Neva River and be served attentively, or stroll through grand art museums on par with the Louvre and the Vatican. But if you are black, at that very same moment, you may also feel the invisible distance eyes following your every step, whispers that are half curious, half malicious, and sometimes the obvious hesitation from service staff. Russia is not a country that bans all black people. There are still many kind, hospitable citizens, ready to help and smile. But the truth is, traveling in Russia with black skin means carrying an invisible armor, heightened vigilance, mental preparation, and even readiness to face tense situations. If you choose Moscow or St. Petersburg, Costs will be somewhat higher, around 750 USD per month for basic living, not including rent. But in return, you get better infrastructure, larger expat communities, and tighter urban security. If you choose smaller cities to save money, you may spend only about 500–600 USD per month, but the risk of prejudice and racism rises significantly. Visa access to Russia is relatively open since 2023. E-visas have been available for 52 countries, with a fee of about 40 USD, allowing stays of 16 days. The process is simple, but upon entry, you must register your temporary residence within 7 working days. Hotels will do this for you, but if you rent an apartment, the landlord must accompany you. Anyone violating this rule may face fines or complications when leaving Russia. For work or study, you need a company or school sponsor before you can apply for a temporary residence permit and eventually permanent residency. Russia is beautiful, Russia is majestic, Russia is civilized in its own way, but Russia is also cold to black people, both literally and figuratively. You may find great symphonies, breathtaking landscapes, endless vodka feasts, but you may also face scrutinizing looks, derogatory words, or even unexpected incidents. So the question is a check-in photo at Red Square worth risking your safety and dignity? If you are a black traveler and still want to go to Russia, prepare carefully. Only go to major cities. Avoid gathering in suburban areas at night. Call taxis through apps instead of hailing them on the street. Always carry valid documents and connect with the African expat community through social media to have support when needed. And right now, leave a comment saying I want the Russia checklist if you need a detailed step-by-step guide on risk prevention when traveling. Share this video with a black friend who is planning to go to Russia, because one share today could save a life tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next part on Libya, where the danger rises to the level of a no-go zone for black people. To go or not to go is your choice, but going prepared, that is the right to live safely that you deserve. 4. Libya. The land of oil, but with doors slammed shut to black people. At first glance, looking at pictures online, Libya seems like a raw gem of the Mediterranean. A coastline stretching in turquoise blue, magnificent Roman ruins like Leptis Magna or the city of Cyrene still standing tall, telling stories of glory from thousands of years ago. Its resources are unmatched. Libya leads Africa in oil reserves, holds hundreds of tons of gold, and was once the wealthiest nation on the continent. Even more surprising, the cost of living is extremely low. One person needs only about $400 per month, including rent, and a family of 4 less than $1,000 per month, an amount many Americans spend just on rent alone. It all sounds tempting, doesn't it? But that is only the bright half of the mirror. The other half is darkness that black people cannot ignore. Libya, in the eyes of many international organizations, is not only unwelcoming, but even dangerous to the point of being a no-go zone. On March 14, 2025, right in Tripoli, a large rally took place with the slogan, "Libya for Libyans," calling for the expulsion of black people from the country. Immediately afterward, the government carried out a mass deportation of more than 600 Nigerian citizens, including women and children, an act condemned by the international community as a human rights violation. Those images became painful symbols while the world speaks of humanity and equality. A nation in the heart of the Mediterranean openly erased a community from its social map. In reality, reports from the ICJ and many other human rights organizations have continuously documented the detention, abuse, and even trafficking of black people in illegal camps. Migrant workers from Africa are often exploited, forced to work without pay, tortured, and sometimes disappear from their families without a trace. In the labor market, discrimination is so blatant that many employers openly classify applicants by skin color. Libya, once holding the potential to become a tourism paradise, is now labeled as a global hotspot for human trafficking. Yet the paradox remains: Libya is still beautiful, still wealthy, still strangely captivating. Those who have set foot in Leptis Magna all admit that it is one of the most spectacularly preserved Roman heritage sites outside Italy. The grandeur of the Sahara Desert, where golden sands meet the deep blue Mediterranean, leaves anyone in awe. But for Black people, the question remains: is a check-in photo at an ancient city gate worth the cost of safety and dignity? Even for ordinary tourists, Libya is not an easy destination. Since March 2024, the country has implemented an e-visa with a fee of about $63. It sounds modern, but in reality, you are not allowed to travel freely. You must sign a tour contract and always be accompanied by a government-approved guide. This turns every trip into a supervised journey. As for those hoping to stay long-term, to work, invest, or study, it is nearly impossible, as residency policies are tightly controlled, favoring only a select few with special political or financial connections. Libya from afar is a buried treasure. But for Black people, getting closer could mean stepping into a trap. Remember, this country does not only carry watchful eyes or harsh words, it also enforces policies and actions that openly exclude. If you are Black and considering Libya, your preparation is not just a suitcase, but a mindset of the highest vigilance. So the question I want to ask you is, if tomorrow you had a free plane ticket to Tripoli, would you dare to go? Comment "I want the Libya checklist" if you need a detailed guide on how to protect yourself in case you must go there. And don't forget to share this video with your friends, because one reminder today could save a life tomorrow. In Russia, Black people face cold stares and sudden violence. In Libya, the challenge is harsher. An entire social system may turn its back on you. 3. China. An empire of 1,000 years, but with an invisible wall against Black people. In April 2020, international opinion erupted when hundreds of Africans in Guangzhou were forced out of their rented homes, denied service at hotels and supermarkets, and even driven out of restaurants. Many were left wandering the streets with no place to stay, while police carried out strict inspections simply because of rumors they were a source of COVID-19 infection. African embassies collectively protested, calling this inhumane treatment. That event became a turning point, exposing the truth that in a modern and powerful China, Black people still face an invisible wall of prejudice and distance. In reality, the problem does not stop in Guangzhou. For many years, the Black community, especially students and workers from Africa, has reported both open and subtle racial discrimination. On Chinese social media, there have been calls to ban Black people from settling or to forbid them from marrying Chinese citizens. Many have shared experiences of being denied housing, harassed by police, or discriminated against in the workplace. In big cities like Beijing and Shanghai, prejudice may be hidden behind politeness, but it still exists through looks, social distance, and cautious attitudes. In smaller cities, Black people are more easily seen as aliens, making them feel isolated even in the middle of a community. The cost of living in China creates another paradox. According to a 2024 report, a single person needs about $556 month, excluding rent, while a family of 4 spends about $2,016 month. Food, transportation, and public services in China are quite cheap compared to the US and Europe. A street meal costs only $3 to $5. a subway ticket $0.51 USD, a taxi $1.8 USD km. But when it comes to housing, especially in central Shanghai or Beijing, the rent for a small apartment can skyrocket to 3,000, 4,000 USD month, a huge burden. This gap forces many foreigners, especially African students and workers, to crowd into suburban areas far from the center, where rent is cheaper but safety risks are higher and access to services is more limited. Nevertheless, it is impossible to deny the enormous appeal of China. This is the world's second-largest economy, a global trade hub where every sector, from technology and finance to education, opens up opportunities. For travelers, China is a paradise of experiences: the Great Wall, the majestic Forbidden City, the mysterious Terracotta Army, the sacred Tibetan monasteries, the Huangshan Mountains, the Yangtze, Yunnan. All paint a cultural and natural picture that few places can match. In 2022, China's tourism industry contributed up to 814 billion USD to GDP, a testament to its international appeal. However, for Black people, China often does not allow them to fully feel that appeal. Amidst the grand scenery, there still exists a sense of distance. Watchful stares, invisible barriers in work, daily life, and social interaction. They come to study, do business, or travel, but many leave with experiences that carry a bitter aftertaste. Visas and residence in China are also not easy. Tourists can apply for an e-visa or use a transit visa exemption, staying up to 240 hours in certain major cities. But to live long-term, you must have a company or school sponsor, apply for a work or student visa, and within 30 days after entry, convert it into a long-term residence permit. Registering your temporary residence with the police is mandatory within 24 to 72 hours. All of these regulations create yet another barrier, making the journey of foreigners, especially Black people, even more challenging. China is a strange blend of millennia-old glory and invisible walls. It is alluring, powerful, and full of opportunities. But for Black people, it also comes with the risk of being isolated, looked at differently, and sometimes pushed out of the flow of society. The question for you is a photo at the Great Wall worth enough to make up for the feeling of loneliness in the crowd? If you want to explore China, prepare not only financially, but also mentally. And if you empathize with what Black people face here, comment "I want the China checklist," so we can share a safety guide before stepping into the journey. 2. India, the mystical land where skin color still defines human worth. In 2017, the world was shocked when in Greater Noida, a group of Nigerian students was attacked by hundreds of locals with cricket bats and stones, simply because of a false rumor that they were linked to the death of a boy. That horrifying scene was not an isolated case. For years, African students and professionals in Delhi, Bengaluru, or Chennai have often faced racial discrimination, being denied housing, harassed in public, or even subjected to mob violence. The Association of African Students in India once had to speak out, "We face racism everywhere." In a society that favors lighter skin, Black people are easily boxed in by prejudice instead of being recognized as individuals. But the paradox here is this: India is at the same time one of the most attractive destinations in the world. In 2025, the country became the fourth largest economy globally, with a GDP of more than $4.19 trillion USD and a population surpassing 1.4 billion, a massive consumer market. In India, you can admire the magnificent Taj Mahal, get lost in the colors of ancient Jaipur, or explore 42 UNESCO World Heritage Sites stretching from the Ajanta-Ellora caves to sacred temples. Bollywood culture, cricket sports, diverse cuisine, and the vibrancy of urban life make this country a cradle of unforgettable experiences. In 2025, tourism contributed more than 231 billion USD, bringing India to the 8th position in the world. What surprises many people is that the cost of living here is quite affordable. A single person spends an average of about 800 USD month, while a family of 4 spends about 1,150 USD month, including rent. Street food costs only 1-2 USD, buses or trains less than 1 USD day. However, housing costs in the centers of major cities like Mumbai or Delhi can be quite high, forcing many to choose suburban living. Overall, India is significantly cheaper compared to the US and Europe, which is why many tourists and international students still choose this place, even though the journey is sometimes full of challenges. Visas to India are also becoming increasingly convenient. The e-visa system has expanded to dozens of countries, allowing visitors to stay up to 180 days. Workers and professionals need a Type Z visa and a residence permit, FRRO. Those who marry Indian citizens, invest, or have special achievements can also apply for long-term residency or an OCI passport. India is therefore a clear paradox, a land of wonders and opportunities. But for Black people, the experience sometimes comes with scrutinizing looks or exclusion. The question is, are you ready to step into that journey, where the Taj Mahal shines before your eyes, but behind you are still the gazes of prejudice? If you are interested in India, comment "I want the India checklist" to receive a safety guide for your trip. 1. Qatar. A luxurious oasis but closed to Black people. The 2022 World Cup once turned Qatar into a global stage, where the world was dazzled by billion-dollar stadiums and Doha's dazzling lights. But after the festival, the dark side quickly emerged, thousands of African and South Asian workers forced to toil under the desert heat, wages withheld, movements restricted by the kafala system. Some Black women reported being denied career opportunities and facing discriminatory attitudes in everyday life. While public violence is rare, the subtle discrimination is enough to make the Black community feel they are only temporary residents and never truly welcomed. The paradox is that Qatar is among the wealthiest and safest countries on the planet. Its GDP per capita exceeds $112,000, ranking in the world's top 5. Doha lacks nothing: 5-star hospitals, international schools, luxurious shopping malls, global events from F1 to Expo. The extremely low crime rate makes many call it an oasis of safety in the desert. Yet the cost of living is a challenge. An individual spends about $2,051 month, a family of 4 more than $3,000 month, with a 3-bedroom apartment in the city center alone costing over $2,000 month. If you have a high income, Qatar is like a dazzling diamond box. But if you are a Black worker, it easily turns into a golden cage, shining on the outside but closing opportunities inside. On visas, Qatar opens the door wide for wealthy travelers. US, EU, and Japanese citizens are visa-free or receive visas on arrival, while many other countries can apply for an e-visa for $2,700 through the Haya platform. But for workers, everything is bound by company sponsorship. Since 2024, the law requires residence permits to be completed within 30 days of arrival, reinforcing control. Long-term residency opportunities are almost completely closed, unless you are a major investor or hold the special golden card. Qatar therefore carries 2 opposing faces: a luxurious paradise for the few, and a harsh reality for the many people of color. For tourists, it is a place where you can enjoy rare wealth and safety. But for the Black community, the big question remains: is a trip to Qatar a journey of dazzling lights, or a test of patience against the invisible walls of prejudice? And that is the real picture of 5 countries, where beauty, wealth, and tourist appeal go hand in hand with invisible walls for Black people. Russia is cold with judgmental stares. Libya is harsh to the point of threatening safety. China and India hold social gaps hard to overcome, while Qatar is lavish yet shuts the doors of fairness. The message is not for you to give up on the dream of exploration, but to travel with preparation, awareness, and resilience. If you have ever experienced these places, share your story in the comments. Perhaps your experience will become a safety map for thousands of others. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can continue exploring the world together through the truest perspectives.